for coming to visit our latest exhibition at New York's premier gallery. We have on show today one of the major discoveries of photographic prints in the world. Most of the prints you'll be seeing today are by Margaret Watkins and have been taken in and around New York. The most exciting thing about them is that until very recently, these prints were completely unknown. Despite this, we have found clients willing to pay several $1,000s per print. This is not only because of the beauty of the prints themselves, but also because Margaret Watkins taught some of this century's greatest photographers. You will notice that our resident designer has arranged the prints by theme rather than...
She told me once that she'd never worried about thunderstorms, not since the Glasgow Blitz. Who could fear the natural world when we shared such savage indifference in ours? When I moved with my family to the west end of Glasgow, the very last thing I thought I'd find was a mystery. There was nothing very mysterious about the area. It had been built by mine owners and merchants who'd moved away before their mine working started to cause subsidence. We'd been lucky when we chose our house. It was a little off the beaten track, ideal for kids. There was one house, though, which stood out, just opposite us. Years had passed without it showing a sign of life. No one knew who lived there. The local children talked of an old witch and would dare each other to approach it. No one ever saw who took in the milk. It was as if the occupant planned it that way. Who cared anyway? Small mysteries don't hurt anyone. When the neighbours talked, it was about the noises at night. It was a while before I went round to introduce myself. I had a mixture of motives: curiosity, neighbourly duty, call it what you will. I'm sorry to bother you, but my name's Joe Mulholland.
Rosa with Churiana, I believe. The Roses. How do you do? Margaret Watkins.
Joe Mulholland.
Thank you so much. It's a long time since anyone brought me flowers.
I hope you don't mind my calling round like this.
Oh, not at all. Social life is a little slow these days anyway. I think it was Plato who said that we can never see more than our own shadows cast on the back of the cave wall. It's like that with pictures. No one ever really looked like that. Just the artist's shadow, no more. It's the way he or she held the brush 300 years ago. That's what I like about them. Hundreds of tiny ghosts.
One time she came over for Christmas. Out of that house, she seemed to enjoy herself. It was quite a compliment. Bit by bit, I discovered more about her companion. His name was Kennedy, kept much to himself. He fetched messages for her, helped her round the house, and kept up his own habits.
Miss Watkins!
She died in her sleep, just before her 85th birthday. For weeks on end, Kennedy went through the house, destroying almost everything. Maybe he thought there was nothing to save. Maybe it was his way of grieving. To my surprise, I'd been made her executor. Of what, I wondered.
Rambling old place, isn't it? Didn't take much care of it. Some of it might get a few quid, if it was all in one lot. Not really our scene. The local auction's the place for it. What are the other houses in the gardens like? I'd have better luck there, perhaps. Oh, what's this? Damp. Just as well it isn't any good. Goodness knows what we'd find if these people would just keep a lookout for the damp. If you want my advice, you'll get hold of those council people. Get rid of it before you catch anything. Sorry I can't be of any more help.
Thanks for coming, anyway. Thanks. Then I came across the pictures she'd mentioned, photographs which Kennedy had missed somehow. At first I wondered whose they were. I'd read a bit about photography and knew that they'd been taken by one of the best. I began to find out what Margaret Watkins had been. Her parents had lived in the same house 100 years ago. The family had been one of the wealthiest in Glasgow, with vast warehouses in the city centre. But her parents emigrated to Canada, where Margaret Watkins was born in 1884. There were a few photographs from her childhood, telling of summer camps, sunlight, open spaces and friendships. She became a photographer, studying under the renowned Clarence White in New York, and for the next few years there she stayed, gaining a considerable reputation for herself. She had an uncanny ability with natural light, which she displayed in her portraits and still lifes. prints became controversial, she was the first photographer to use everyday objects in composition. Ordinary gestures and sights were transformed into forms and patterns, light and shade. She won international awards and gained praise from every major photographic magazine and publication. Her pictures were exhibited across the world from New York to Tokyo. Her last pictures appear to grow colder, more alone, the light struggling to reveal the scene. They seem to summon up a vision of her own lonely future. Then something strange happened. In 1928, without a word of explanation for anyone, Margaret Watkins vacated her New York apartment. Taking all her belongings, she travelled to Glasgow, where she remained a hermit for the last 40 years of her life. She never revealed what she was fleeing from or trying to find. Apart from myself and Kennedy, no one was ever to see more of her than a sad shape glimpsed at a window. I began to wonder whether I'd ever find out why she shut herself away. Sometimes I'd come across small pieces of paper in her handwriting, notes which hinted at some deeper, more hidden tragedy. Living in a state of curdled despair, taking Benax to keep up my courage, missing the artistic crowd most desperately. Collectively, they may have every failing under the sun, but in spite of their sins, or because of them, they have a strange gleam of vision. Something worth striving after, something a bit beyond the end of our small human noses. There was one final clue. Who had left it, what it meant, that I couldn't tell. But it must have meant something 50 years ago. But the name had faded away, and the message with it. There it was. Whatever the house had given up, it wasn't Margaret Watkins. I had been privileged to know a part of someone's life. It looked as if the rest of the story was hidden forever.